Hi, I'm Seamless, and today is Friday, which means it's time for a new How to Bass. And today I'm going to show you how to make this sound. Actually, not this sound. Well, yeah, this sound. But this sound is what I was actually trying to do. I mean, the other sound is fine, and that's honestly part of the conversation, but this is supposed to be the bass sound. So let's talk about that. And today I am well lit, and I have this. This is the angle that I used during the track from scratch stream. People seem to like it, so I decided to stick with it. I thought it was kind of awkward at first, but I guess it worked out pretty good. I'm primarily words about it in the fact that it makes my forehead look gargantuan. Like, I know I got a big forehead, but damn, just fucking that's my head. Okay. It's also shiny because the lights and all these things. Anyway, let's talk about the sound. So the core principle behind what makes this sound is purely the fact that whatever I am modulating, you saw me do a square wave on the beginning, and I'm doing a triangle wave now. I'm modulating it by another triangle, but this one is an octave higher. That's pretty much it. That's the new information for this video. But let's talk about why this works. This is born of a desire for me to have a kind of square wavy feel in a sound, but have it be applied to FM. And what I mean by that is that if I make like a regular kind of FM, if I use the this level, look at the EQ. You see how the harmonics are all bunched up there? That's more or less similar as to what happens when we have a square saw wave. We have all the harmonics. And it has a particular sort of feel to it. And if you compare that to a square wave, the square wave is a little smoother. It has a kind of smooth. It's more. It has more. Doesn't not as phasey. What I mean by that is we have to sort of look at what these guys look at in terms of harmonics, because a square wave, a saw wave, is born of all the harmonics, has all of them engaged, and they're all at zero phase, which means that they all start at the same time, and that creates the sharpness of the waveform itself. Same sort of deal with the square wave, which is not how I do it. I did just then, except that it's every other harmonic. It's half the amount of harmonics total. And although it does create a similarly sharp profile as a result of the phases being aligned the way they are, it still feels a little smoother as a result of not being so close together. It just does. This is sort of how that rolls. With this in mind, I was attempting to try and find a way to turn this FM into kind of a more square wavy type, where the phases of the harmonics and the harmonics themselves were spaced out a little more, like a square wave. Problem with that is I wasn't super sure about that, but then I remembered something sort of interesting about square waves, is that the square waves do sound kind of like a higher octave than a triangle wave, a saw wave. Saw wave sounds nice down low, it's got that sharpness to it, and then a square wave, while still having the same bass level and still sounding like it's the same note, it sounds like it's higher. It has more of a presence in sort of a higher range. And for all the reasons why it sounds like that, it's just sort of how that works. And so I realized, okay, well, that being the case, why don't I just make the FMing operator, the modulating operator, be an octave higher? And that ended up being the answer. And as you can see, the EQ, the harmonics are consistently spread out as they have the similar sort of square wavy type. And in fact, if you look at the waveform generator itself, well, it primarily looks like triangle waves. You might be thinking, well, why doesn't it look like a square wave? As it turns out, triangle waves have a similar sort of harmonic layout as square waves do. Triangle waves have a similar harmonic layout as square waves, except that their phases are a bit different. But the harmonics themselves are there, there's just less of them, which is pretty interesting if you think about it. What the phases are doing and what a triangle does has actually very little impact on what the FM itself does. To talk more about that, I suggest you look at some of my older videos. How to Bass 50 talks about why a triangle wave does what it does in terms of FM, but that's also part of the reason why I used a triangle wave as the carrier operator, because I wanted to have something with that sort of harmonic bass. And I mean, that's also why at the beginning of this video I had a square wave going on, because then of course the sort of logical conclusion to that is to just use a square wave modulated by a triangle wave with an octave higher. And it works. It's just particularly harsh. And if you're into that, then cool. As for the rest of the sound, I distorted it. I put on a phaser and a reverb. They kind of make it sound more metallic. Now, the reason I have this EQ here is actually entirely to sort of analyze harmonics and look at the movement of things, and particularly the movement of the phaser, because sort of looking at what a phaser does to a spectrum is interesting, and it helps you to better sort of apply the sound. So yes, that's why that's there. It was also particularly helpful for the how to bass actually tutorial was in it. The reverb itself is before the distortion, so the impact is a bit more intense than it would have been otherwise. The decay is short as it's gonna get. The dampening is all the way off, which is what this position means. So it's very high frequency. The high frequencies are also all the way up. The low frequencies are pretty high. And the room size is very small. So this means that the decay being short will actually be pretty short. Because if you have a short decay and you have a big room size, it actually lasts a bit longer than you might think. So you also have to have a small room size in the reverb for it to actually matter in that regard. And then also the stereo separation is separated, along with a little bit of stereo in the phaser itself. And that, you know, adds to the overall stereo-ness of the sound. So yeah, if you have any questions about any of this, let me know. And as usual, have a nice day. I also want to remind people that if you're interested in doing lessons, there's going to be a price increase in my lessons on September 1st. If you click on the link in the description that says lesson info, all that is in there. I just wanted to say that if you schedule your lessons before September 1st, that is to say you can schedule lessons to be taking place after September 1st, but if you schedule them before September 1st, that is to say pay me before September 1st, then you can still use the old pricing schedule type pricing structure, which is $30 for an hour, $100 for 4, and it's going to turn into $45 for an hour and $150 for 4. So if you're into that, then that should be useful information for you. Anyway, if you have any questions about that, let me know. And as usual, have a nice day.